Well, hello. I am so glad to be with you here today, Bodhi. My name is Debbie. I'm with Lake Norman Connect. I'm sitting here with Bodhi at Sacred Roots and very excited to have a conversation with her about how she helps her clients experience well-being wins. Bodhi, thank you so much for agreeing to meet with me today.
I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited that you reached out, and I'm so excited to let people know what we're doing down here.
Yeah, same here. Yeah,
That's
this
awesome.
is great.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about who is Bodhi and how'd you get that name?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. So I'm we'll start with who is Bodhi as far as professionally. So I'm a licensed counselor here in North Carolina, and my focus is psychedelic work. Okay. And so I am a psychedelic therapist and work out of Derive Ketamine Clinic. Okay. And so that's that's my main kind of healing modality that I work with. And as an outgrowth of that, we have some parts of Sacred Roots that kind of help support that. And then as a person, I'm a mother of two, and they're grown children, and I'm really proud of them. And I'm also single. I have lived here in North Carolina since 2017. And when I came to North Carolina, I found that I needed community to survive. Yeah. And I did not feel like that there was a community that kind of fit my mindset. And so I just decided to start one. And so since 2017, I've been building Sacred Roots spiritual community, and it has turned into I guess one of the main kind of hubs of spiritual and personal development for a lot of people. At the very least, it's a great network of people who are in the spiritual and personal development kind of mindset here in Charlotte. And so I've been really, really proud of how we've grown and what we do to just kind of, I guess my main work is that I, help midwife people through their personal development and spiritual development process. And I got named Bodhi in, I guess it was 2016. I was called to South and Central America by Spirit to start my own personal journey of healing after a divorce. And when I was in Peru, I was doing medicine work with a shaman there. And on a mountain in the Andes, I was named Bodhi Deva Ma. And so it took me a long time to own that name and to, because it's weird, right? I grew up Jennifer, and just like everybody, you get this like weird name, and you're like, I'm not calling myself that. But when I moved to Guatemala and started expanding my work, the people there started calling me Bodhi, and then it just kind of stuck. And so I've been living with that. And so in Sanskrit, it translates to awakened goddess mother. And so I'm always trying to live into that.
Yes, it kind of gives you a focus.
Yeah,
it gives you a reason for being, like, and how you want to present yourself.
Yes, exactly. And I fall short of being awakened goddess mother all the time, but it definitely does give me a focus and gives me something to learn to live into.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we're all human. So
that's right.
That could be 100%. Right. But it helps focus you, and that's beautiful. Yeah. What a beautiful name.
Yeah, I love it so much. You're welcome. You're welcome.
So all right, so you're a licensed therapist in psychedelics.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what that means.
Yeah, so I'm a regular, just kind of licensed therapist. I went through grad program, this type of thing, and I focused on stress management and energy healing as my focus in graduate school. Okay. So I always integrated kind of energy medicine, so that would in mind-body medicine. So I was always working with kind of the tapping, the EMDR, this type of stuff. So that and so it wasn't ever for me just about talk therapy. But then as I've developed, I've focused after graduate school, focused most of my work on trauma resolution. And in that, I really took up the banner of somatics and bringing, the body aspect into the psychiatric circle that I was working, or the psychiatric framework that I was working through. And that has just made a huge difference in my ability to help people transform. And so that was kind of my track. And then when psychedelic therapy became a thing, I guess after 2018, Michael Pollan wrote his book, How to Change Your Mind. And that really opened up the whole world to this understanding of the research and what psychedelics can do to help people heal.
Yes.
And in that, it really opened up this ability for professional therapists to move into working with psychedelics. And so the only thing that's legal here in North Carolina is ketamine therapy.
Okay, ketamine therapy.
And so that's what I focus on. So we do ketamine work at a clinic. Okay. So my clients will do, and usually the protocol that that the research says is kind of quote the best is about 6 sessions. Okay. And so we do 6 medicine sessions, and then we do integration sessions in between, which is just equally as important as the medicine itself in helping people to transform. And I have seen some unbelievable transformation with that. Because there's pharmaceutical benefits, of course, of taking the actual medicine, and the neuroplasticity aspect of it helps really people to kind of rewire their brain and make the changes faster.
Okay.
But it also helps them to kind of get out of the way. The psychedelics kind of helps get your protective mechanisms and your kind of default conditioning kind of out of the way for a little bit so that you can really see things in a truer sense. And even with what we had before, or what I was able to work with before, which was really the gold standard for trauma therapy, which was EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprogramming.
Yes.
When I worked with that, it was the best that we had, and it worked really well. But then when I started working with psychedelics, it was like twice as fast people are healing and transforming and really coming out of what ketamine's very best known for is treatment-resistant depression. Mm-hmm. And so people who've been on medications for a long time and they just can't get over the depression and maybe having to take 2 or 3 to try to really get through it. And where talk therapy had not helped them, they can do the ketamine sessions. And it is really just short of saying it's miraculous how quickly people are able to move out of those states. And they even use it for suicidal ideation is one of the things that they've seen a lot of promise for, where people are feeling suicidal and they'll do even sometimes just one infusion and it kind of pops them right out of that, and they're able to see things from a different perspective and kind of come out of it a lot quicker. And so it's been really remarkable getting to see people do that. And so that's how I kind of ended up there. But that journey really started when I was 19. I was actually suicidal. I had gone through some significant trauma in college, and somebody, I grew up just like everybody else with the DARE programs and the just say no to everything, and I was very anti-drugs, could drink alcohol, but drugs, no.
Right.
And because I was so depressed, a friend of mine had some acid, and this was before all of the real science came out around it, and she was like, you should take this. And of course, because I didn't care if I died, I'm just lucky it wasn't methamphetamine or something. I was like, sure, I'll take it.
Not laced with something.
Right. And in one session, I took it one time, and it was like 180-degree turn.
Wow.
And what I now understand as a therapist, that I was in dorsal shutdown is what they call it. And I was completely numb, completely dissociated, couldn't see colors well. Everything was in a gray scale. And I was, it just felt like I had a sucking hole in my chest. And I felt hopeless. I felt like everything was meaningless, and I was drinking a lot. And when I took it, I saw colors again, and I was able to see energies, and things just opened up to me in that one time. And I was like, what is this? And for the first time in maybe years at that point, I felt happy. Wow. And so that summer I explored with LSD and mushrooms, and it completely changed me as a person. And my family could see that I was like happier and able to function, and everybody could see that I was changing. But of course, because it was illegal and because I was on drugs, I didn't feel like it was really credible what was happening to me, but it was so undeniable, the changes that I was having, and I was getting kind of insights about life and just awarenesses that were just remarkable. And I had grown up fundamentalist Christian, and so I didn't even have a vocabulary framework for what I was actually experiencing. And so I actually changed my majors that next year. I had been a broadcasting communications major, and I changed it to philosophy and religious studies because I needed to understand what I was experiencing, because what I was experiencing felt more real than my life had. Yeah. And it really dissolved my conditioned understanding of life, and it opened me up to understanding life in presence. I think it brought me to the present moment for the first time in my life, and I could feel my body, and I could see and experience life in a different way. And so I kind of played around with those throughout my 20s, used those kind of recreationally, but always there was a sense that it was something deeper than just a party drug. Certainly I experienced it very differently than like drinking or smoking weed or whatever. And I always felt a reverence for it. And then, had children, went on with my life, didn't really have a lot of effect with it. But then in my 30s, I went through a divorce, and I had started having these spiritual experiences at this point in my life that led me down to South America and Central America, where I started working with these medicines ceremonially. Mm-hmm. So I was working with cactuses and mushrooms in Central and South America with shaman, and that changed everything. It changed me as a human being, but it also changed my understanding of what I was dealing with. And it also, and at that time, that was like 2015, 2016. And then right after that, Michael Pollan's book exploded into the mainstream. And then all of a sudden, science proved that I was actually being changed, and it was credible change. And there was some real documented science behind what was happening to me. And it kind of validated my whole entire life.
Right.
And so from there, when I knew that I could actually make this into a calling and a life, it had changed me so much, literally saved my life. Yeah. And so I wanted to be able to bring that to other people in a safe way and in an informed way. And so that's been kind of my journey to try to figure out how to do that, and making mistakes along the way and realizing like, definitely don't do that.
Right. Okay.
But having worked with these medicines recreationally and kind of on my own outside of the therapeutic stage, sometimes trauma will arise. And if you're not in the right setting, if you're not being cared for in the right way, you can have some really bad experiences. And so that's also a big part of what I'm trying to bring forth for people and help them understand, is that now that this has become mainstream, and it does have a lot of science backing its benefits, there are things that in the traditional way they already had kind of set up to protect people's minds and to protect people physiologically and trauma-wise, because they were doing it in ceremony and they had a certain context. And here now in the United States, you can just go do it in your living room. And I really want to help people to understand the safety aspects of setting and making sure that they're doing the integration work and making sure that they're in the right context with people, so that they don't, because you can kind of get more traumatized in some situations if you're not doing it in a good way with right relationship to the medicine.
So you're not advocating that people just go out and do drugs?
100%. Exactly. Okay. Absolutely. That's the point, because people are putting it out there, it's in the media. You can see anytime, like on 60 Minutes, they have a whole special about how these people have PTSD and they're having these wonderful experiences with psychedelics. And a lot of people might think, wow, I'll just go get some from my, local drug dealer, and I'll just go do that in my living room or go out in the forest. And it's a crapshoot. Some people had, like myself, I was lucky to have had good experiences without the knowledge, but I had some really bad experiences because I didn't have the knowledge, and also just the wisdom. And so part of what I do, we have a weekly psychedelic integration group where people can come and ask questions if they're interested, to myself or in another professional, and then also to talk about their experiences, so people will have their own experiences. Maybe they did take it in their living room, or maybe they went to South America and had a retreat, and then they have a place where they can come to where people understand, and they can talk about their experiences and integrate those experiences. And so we spend a lot of time really focusing on harm reduction and focusing on helping people get the most out of their experiences if they're going to do it. But I don't think psychedelics are for everyone. Certainly they're not. And people really need to understand what the risks are psychologically and physically before they go working with these medicines, because they are sacred and they are strong, and they need a lot of reverence and respect when you're working with these medicines.
And taking something like ketamine, I mean, is that the end all be all? So, okay, great. This is my shortcut. All I have to do is take some ketamine and I'm done.
That's right. Absolutely not. So,
okay.
So, there are pharmaceutical benefits, and many people do just go get the ketamine infusions.
Okay.
And it does physiologically help you change. Okay. But to get the most out of it, and certainly to help with long-term, for example, the long-term depression and stuff, you really need to do the integration work. So that means you take the medicine and then you're having a certain type of experience, and then you're taking whatever that experience is and you're learning to integrate the insights into your daily life. So for example, you may have an experience where the medicine shows you something about your childhood, or shows you something about the nature of the universe that will be meaningful to you to help you in your healing. But with that insight, you have to understand and need support in taking that insight. And now, how do I integrate this into how I'm living my life day to day? And how do I make these changes? Because lifestyle changes have to happen. Okay. And I think that, what we can say about psychedelics is it's like you're in a dark room and they open a door so you can see a totally new reality or totally different possibility. Right. But then you have to walk through that door, and you have to make the changes in your life that are going to make that work. And you can hear this so much from people. They'll have these huge psychedelic experiences where they saw God, or excuse me, or connected with nature and saw the oneness. But then if they don't do the integration work and understand, how do I learn to regulate my nervous system? How do I do it? Then maybe 3 months, 6 months later, it's just a cool experience they had once. It didn't actually change them. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm thinking of an analogy, having all of the ingredients, but not having the recipe. And so what you're saying is ketamine or some of these other things might be ingredients, but you need the recipe. You need to know how to put them together to get the outcome, which really is well-being. Right. It really is healing. Absolutely. It is being able to live life to the fullest in the present. And now ketamine or such things are a part of it. You need all of the pieces, and you need to know how to put them together. And that's what somebody like you can help with.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. And so, a big piece of it for me is just helping people to understand that really the integration is 50% of the transformation with the psychedelic work. And if it is just as important as taking the medicine to you transforming, and really you're the medicine ultimately, you're the one taking the steps, making the changes, creating the transformation, and the medicine is just a support to that. And certainly because of the pharmaceutical benefits and the neuroplasticity and the way that it works with your nervous system, it does make it work faster. It's much faster and easier to make the changes because it is actually helping your brain to rewire itself. But it is 100% you doing the work. And you can totally tell the difference between people who just go and get the infusions and people who get the infusions and then also do the integration. 100% difference a year later in what their outcomes are.
And integration then is just practical application.
Absolutely.
So I've had this experience, I've had these different insights, but what do I do with them? Well, here's how they fit into my life, and here's practically how I can apply them. Is 100%. That right, Bodhi?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
That's really interesting stuff. So I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. So that's a big part of your life.
It is.
And then how did that lead to, we're sitting right now, it's beautiful back here. You can't see, it's night. But it is on a beautiful piece of property in the middle of the woods, this very natural house in such a peaceful setting. Mm-hmm. So we're sitting here in the foyer, or in the great room. What do you call this?
Yeah, like living room.
Living room.
Yep,
okay.
Community
Perfect.
room.
We'll call it in the community room.
Mm-hmm.
So we're sitting here in the community room of Sacred Roots. Mm-hmm. So you do the psychedelic therapy, helping people with trauma, helping people learn how to integrate. Yep. You're helping them tear down their defenses. So they're very strong. We all do, and we need them. They're good for us to have survival instincts and survival defenses, right? Mm-hmm. But the drugs. Okay, so that's a big part of it, right? Mm-hmm. Learning, and you're doing a lot of work there. But then you've got this thing called Sacred Roots. So let's transition. How does what you do with the psychedelic therapy? Mm-hmm. How does that
tie together?
Thank you.
So no, that's perfect. So when I returned so I lived in Central and South America for about 8 or 9 months in 2016, 17.
Okay.
And then I moved to Charlotte. And when I came here, what I realized is that there just wasn't a community for me with the kind of mindset that I had of just open, more eclectic kind of spirituality and personal development. And so because I needed community, I kind of started to create one. And we started off being in the Concord area, and then in the Harrisburg area. And then right after 2020, so many people after COVID, really needed community, and they were looking for meaning and purpose. Mm-hmm. And so we created this community to help people to find their own personal prescription for their spiritual framework. And so, psychedelics, because I am the leader of Sacred Roots, and that is my profession, they are certainly like a crown jewel modality. We do the psychedelic integration groups, we do a lot of education, this kind of stuff. But really what Sacred Roots is a community for discovering yourself spiritually.
Okay.
And what we offer is kind of certain frameworks have worked for people throughout all different cultures, both ancient and modern, to help people to either get closer to their own more authentic self, or to get closer to spirit or to the earth. Mm-hmm. And so we've kind of seen this perennial philosophies where things have just kind of worked for different people. And instead of saying this one religion works, we offer a lot of different types of techniques and spiritual frameworks to let people kind of taste test and find out what works for them.
Okay.
And so we've built kind of a community framework around helping people discover that for themselves. Okay. And so I do, as on the side, spiritual coaching, and just kind of help people figure that out for themselves.
Oh, beautiful.
As a, on a one-on-one basis. But then we also offer weekly Sunday services, and then Monday through Thursday different offerings that either help people integrate their psychedelic experiences, develop more authentic communication with other people. Mm-hmm. We have a men's and women's group, and then we have a meditation group. And what's really valuable and cool about our meditation group is that it's not stuck on one way of doing meditation. It's actually every single week our teacher shows, okay, this is how contemplative Christians meditate. This is how they meditate in Sufi tradition. This is how people meditate, in a more secular tradition, and let people experience meditation in a lot of different ways so they can find their prescription for what works for them.
Oh, beautiful.
And what we found in normal meditation, it's just very like, okay, we're doing Buddhist, or okay, we're doing this particular kind of sect of meditation. And this one really offers people a way to find what works for them. And so we help people through giving offerings that are either teaching some kind of somatic technique, some kind of mind-based technique. We offer a lot of ritual and ceremony teachings. And then also we found that sound and frequency, like sound baths, drumming, this type of thing, have worked throughout time for people. And so we offer these different types of things that we've seen that have helped people so that each person that comes here can be empowered to find what works best for them. Okay. And so that's how we're a little bit different, but that's kind of what we really focus on, is just helping people figure that out. Because so many people, especially in this area, have had a lot of religious trauma where they feel like they don't really like organized religion, but they really want what the community that church gives to them. And we really wanted to kind of come up with a way of creating a church that doesn't have dogma and that doesn't have hierarchy. That's really kind of how we've tried to formulate this. And it's a grand experiment because, as far as I know, no one else has done it this way. But people have really benefited a lot from it so far. We've had our Sunday services now for about a year, and we try to keep the numbers to about 20, 25 so that we can really have the discussion aspect of it. And it's really helped a lot of people. And I think that it has the potential for helping a lot more. And I feel like with what's going on in the world right now, people are really looking for meaning, and they're looking for community, and they want to be in a place where they can discover their spirituality and feel safe to talk to other people about, oh, I'm studying crystals right now, and not have people be like, oh, you're going to hell then, or, or, oh, what is this, sage about, or what is this, meditation about? It's like for people who are trying to understand all of that, and they can come and feel not judged and safe. And no matter where they are on that path, we have people who have been on the spiritual journey for 30, 40 years and in our community. And then we have people who just really now are just kind of figuring it out. And it really seems, the framework that we've created really seems to fit no matter where you're on in the journey. And we really encourage all of the people who participate to realize that no matter where they're at on the journey, there's not, they still have their own personal direct connection to spirit, and they have something equal, even if you're brand new to it, you have something equally valuable to bring to the community as someone who's been practicing these things for 40 years, because you have your own experience that now is enriching everybody else's experience. And so those are the kind of ways that we've created Sacred Roots. And honestly, I created it because I needed community.
Yeah. Well, you keep talking about experience. This is the thing that you just kept saying. Experience. So you want to say anything else about that?
Well, I think that's really what is so valuable about the way that we do it. The way that we do spiritual, like midwifery is what I call it. Yeah. Is that it's all about people having a direct experience themselves of whatever it is. It's not about me conceptually telling you this is what you should believe. It's not about dogma. It's not even really about beliefs. I tell people all the time, I don't care if you think God is Captain Crunch, as long as whatever your direct experience is, if it's helping you become more compassionate toward yourself and others, if it's helping you become kinder and more embodied and feel more connected, then it's probably taking you in the right direction. And it doesn't really matter what you believe. It's what are you experiencing? What is your embodied experience? And let's all talk about that and get more information about what's really going on here.
Right, right. Awesome. Yeah. So in all these things that you offer, let's talk about a couple of well-being wins. So what can you offer the people who will be watching this, who are watching it right now? What can you offer them? A couple of practical tips. What can they do now to experience healthy living and, before they're able to connect with Sacred Roots? So
absolutely.
Between now and the first time they interact with you, what can they do? And then,
anything that, if I could say there'd be like one kind of like key to the castle, it is learning to be conscious of and manage your breath. Because this is really the bottom line for all of us, is we are a walking nervous system. And if you do not know how to regulate your own nervous system, then you are going to have a really hard time with all of your life. And so if there's one thing that I would tell people for their well-being to start today, is learning to be conscious of how you're breathing, because this is our manual override for the fight or flight state. And so when we breathe, you can kind of think of your breath almost like, or your body almost like a fire. Mm-hmm. So for example, if you're having a lot of anxiety, or if you're feeling really stressed, a fire needs more oxygen to burn more. Mm-hmm. And so if you reduce the amount of oxygen to the fire, it reduces the fire.
Right.
And if you think about your breath in this way, if you are slowing down the breath and you're breathing out longer than you're breathing in, then you're going to have more control over this fast mind and this anxiety and this feeling of fight or flight. And if you learn to control your breath and become conscious of it all the time, and keep your muscles soft and not tense, if you learn those two things, you can literally overcome anything. Anything in your life is going to be better because you've learned to regulate the nervous system. And if you can keep yourself out of fight or flight and out of your limbic system in that way, you can keep yourself in the part of your brain that is solution oriented, the part of your brain that can have empathy and connect to something greater than yourself. Mm-hmm. If you're in that fight or flight stressed state all the time, then you don't have access by nature to your frontal lobes. And so you're not able to direct your life in the way you want to. And spiritual or not, just as a personal development thing, learning to control the breath is probably the most important thing. And what's interesting, in all the different spiritual traditions, there's an aspect of that, mm-hmm. Especially in the Eastern traditions, it's one of the first things they teach you is to watch the breath, mm-hmm. because it really is the key to everything. Mm-hmm. And the faster you breathe, the more energy you have. Mm-hmm. The slower you breathe, you're slowing down the energy. Mm-hmm. And as you start to learn that, and the best breath kind of pattern, it's very, very simple. It's like how a baby breathes. Or you can kind of think of like an old man in a armchair when mm-hmm. he's sleeping, it's that maybe you're breathing in for 4 and you're breathing out for 6 or 8. And if you just teach yourself to do that, and I tell my clients all the time, like, set an alarm once an hour with a special ringtone and check in and see how you're breathing. And what you normally will find is that you're breathing shallow and you're breathing fast. Mm-hmm. And if you train your body to learn to and just breathe like that all the time, then you maintain connection to everything that's important. Empathy, where it'll create better relationships. You maintain connection to your ability to make good decisions and be solution oriented. You can keep yourself out of fear and anxiety. All of the things that kind of are obstacles for people. The one thing that really can help them is if they learn to control their breath. And it only takes 3 minutes of breathing like that before your body will burn off whatever adrenaline and cortisol has been kind of shot mm-hmm. off, and get you back to that normalized state where you feel mm-hmm. safe again. And it's kind of you can imagine that your body's kind of like a 3-year-old that you have to take care of all the time. And your mind is like the adult, like mm-hmm. your parent. And so, your body, it needs you to take it to go to the bathroom. It needs you to give it naps. It needs mm-hmm. you to feed it. And your body does not speak English. So if you start to feel unsafe, for example, if you're in a business meeting and somebody says something stressful to you, if you start to feel unsafe, your body, you can tell your body in English all the time, like, we're safe. He's not a tiger. He's not going to attack me. But then your body goes into freak out mode because it doesn't feel safe. And the way we talk to our body is in body language. And the language of our body is our breath. And so when we soften the muscles and we slow down the breath, we're telling the body, hey, that's not a tiger, that's just Jim, and he just said something weird, but we're fine. You don't have to freak out. And you can kind of learn to communicate with this little animal that you're carrying around with you all the time by learning how to breathe and learning how to tell it to know that it's safe. And so the best thing that all of us can do is learn how to regulate our nervous system and keep it in that safe mode so that we can always be making good decisions. And certainly with the way that the world is, and the media is designed to put you into fear and keep you, because it keeps you, engaged in it.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Gotta see what's happening.
And when we're in fear, though, we're throwing out cortisol and adrenaline, and it stresses our bodies, and we're not supposed to be feeling like that unless there's a tiger in the room. Like you said, those defense mechanisms are great, and being able to get into fight or flight is awesome. Absolutely, if there's 100%. A tiger in the room, or if there's a bus barreling at you. If a bus is barreling at you, the last thing you want is to be in your frontal lobes and be like, I wonder what the velocity of that bus is. It's like, no, just shut that shit down. Excuse my language, but shut that down, just jump.
Right.
And so it's great that our bodies do that, but the problem is that our environment is geared toward keeping us in that state. And what that means is that you're not using the part of your brain that has empathy. That part literally disconnects and shunts back into a more instinctual, emotional part. Mm-hmm. And when we're in that all the time, we're not able to make good decisions. We're not able to relate well to others. We're not able to hear those still small voices that are guiding our lives, because that fear, the fear chemistry and the fear physiology really blocks us from that. And so teaching your body that it's safe by learning to breathe in that safety breath, which is breathing out longer than you're breathing in, consistently for at least 3 minutes. Just people tell you all the time, like, take some deep breaths. And taking 3 deep breaths is valuable because it gives you time to pause, but it doesn't really make the physiological changes you need. But it needs to be at least 90 seconds to 3 minutes where you're doing that breath and your body goes back to, oh, I am safe. And also just touching yourself here helps your body somatically know, because you can think of it really like it's a child, like your body's a child. If you have a 3-year-old and it's scared, you don't want to tell it like you're safe. That doesn't fix them. But what does fix them is a hug. Or, you touching them and being like, hey, buddy, you're okay. Calm down. And you can do this for your own body. You're just telling it like, hey, buddy, I see you. I see that you're scared. You're okay. And just that little bit of pressure on your chest. And a lot of people do it intuitively. When they're stressed, Absolutely. They'll kind of do this. But it actually really does help your body to kind of regulate itself just by pressing here and then breathing that way. And then also the third piece to it is, your body gears up for fear, and the tension that we're carrying are those physiological manifestations of these defense mechanisms you were talking about psychologically. And so when we learn to soften the muscles, then it teaches the body to go back into that safety mode.
You need both. You need to be able to relax the body and have the shoulders relaxed, and wherever you're feeling tension, everybody feels tension in a different place, but you need both.
That's
right?
Exactly right.
You can do the breath, which is helpful, but to get the full benefit, it's relaxing. Like just encouraging different body parts to let go of tension and do the breathing for 3 minutes.
Yes, exactly.
That's where you get the.
And, and what I tell people, for life and in, healing work, that you really need 3 things to walk through life. Maintaining curiosity, compassion, and non-judgment. And so with those physiological things that we were speaking of, adding to that, the mindset of trying to, if you are not in curiosity, you need to be questioning yourself. If you think, I know the facts and I am locked into this, then probably you're in a rigid mindset that's causing you stress. you know. So staying in a curious space about life and a humble space about life is really important for our well-being. You know, once we see this all the time, especially right now, people locking themselves into like, I know the answer and I'm here and it's us versus them. We see that a lot right now, this polarization in people. And I think that it is so important for people to really remember, especially now, that maintaining a state of curiosity and open-mindedness is super important to our well-being, and not locking ourselves into I am right and they or that is bad or wrong. And then the aspect of non-judgment is also important to that. You know, I think it's really important to be discerning, right?
Yeah.
I need to know for me what's right and wrong for me. But adding the valuation that judgment does is like, for example, I say this all the time, it's like with our discernment, if I say, do you want pizza or do you want hot dogs? And you're like, I want hot dogs. That's discernment. That's what's right for me. But then you add judgment to it. It's like, and hot dogs are the best and pizza's awful and people who eat pizza are stupid. And you're adding all of that piece to it. And that creates so much stress for us. And it also takes us out of reality, you know? And so really trying to develop this, an attitude toward non-judgment, toward ourselves and others, will really help maintain people's well-being. And always going toward compassion, doing your best to really cultivate compassion for yourself and for others. And if you can walk either in a psychedelic journey with those attitudes or in your life journey with those attitudes, it will help you maintain well-being. I think those are the three main characteristics that will really help you attain mental and emotional well-being.
So say them again for us. Say those three again.
So there's compassion,
yes,
curiosity, and non-judgment.
Beautiful.
And those mental frameworks, if you cultivate those three, I think those make all of your life better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bodhi, thank you so much. This has
Thank
been
you.
a wonderful conversation. I have loved listening to you.
Thank
you have
you.
so much wisdom to share, and I love your experience. So thank you for being open with us and letting us know about the options that we have, and that we can get involved in Sacred Roots. There are, you can go to what's the website?
It's sacredrootsnc.com.
Sacred Roots NC.
And you know, honestly, most of our practitioners or participants have never done psychedelics. So really, you know, while psychedelics is my job, you know, Sacred Roots is really for anyone who's curious about their personal development and their spiritual development. And so, and while we do have a lot to offer as far as education and support with the psychedelics, it's really for everyone who's really just curious about developing themselves in a non-judgmental environment where they can really find themselves.
Absolutely. And I know there are activities almost every night.
That's
and they have Sunday service, which is it's a spiritual experience, but it's not with any one spiritual philosophy.
That's right.
Really a cool community there, and then all kinds of other activities. So I encourage you to check out Sacred Roots, and the Sunday service is in Huntersville. So it's local here. And thank you.
Yeah,
I just want to say thank you.
Much.
So
thank you so much. I'm so glad you found us, and I hope that this helps a lot of people to find us, because I think we have something really beautiful that maybe people just don't know much about.
Absolutely. I am glad that we're able to make this available to everybody here.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Bodhi.
Thank you, Debbie.